Alright everybody, welcome to my front yard. So, let's go see what kind of fun and exciting things are happening today in the Jones family's home ownership saga. We have a nice little leak that I had to dig up. So let's take a look there. You can still see that pipe is still leaking a little bit of water, but there's a huge hole down there. Well, actually, it's not huge, but it doesn't have to be. And so all of this in the corner, and this is like the ugly side of the house, is just completely soaked to the bone. So old spigots like that, where they go up underground and you have your little elbows, couplings, things like that. You never know what can happen. So I basically had to take off work to come have it looked at. So basically just waiting on it to be repaired later, so I kind of have to stay home and until that can happen. So yeah, anyway, just figured I'd show that to you guys. Fun times, Merry Christmas to all the homeowners out there. Alright, so now that fun stuff is out of the way, we're going to head inside the fish cave here, and we're going to do something today that I have almost zero experience with. We're going to hand dip some tubes. I have only ever hand dipped 3 tubes in my life. So you're going to see tubes number 4, 5, 6, and 7 here on this video. I'm going to try to do, I guess, what you would call a laminate in tubes, to where the body color is a little bit different color than the tail portion. Now these are going to be small tubes. I'm only going to be dipping about 3 inches or so up on the rod. But you essentially just take an aluminum rod and dip it into the plastic to whatever height you want. And then of course you can redip to add a layer, redip to add a layer, and stagger those layers however you want to try to get the multicolor effect. And then you cut the tails after they're set up. So that's what we're going to do. I have ghetto rigged my tubes, my rods. I don't even have them like attached to something. So I stuck 4 rods into some modeling clay so that I can dip 4 at a time. It's completely ghetto, but it's going to work, I think. So let's get in here and see what we can do. Okay, voila, we are in the fish cave, and here's our setup. You can see our tube rods there. Those are from Angling AI. He actually sells a tube injection mold that has like the rod inserts. So I'm pretty sure that those are the rods from that. We can see our 2 cups of dead-on plastic tube blend. I got a little bit of something already in there, but no worries. So we're gonna do like a black and copper, I guess 2-color, maybe I guess you call it laminate tube. You can tell I don't really know what I'm doing here, but this is gonna be fun because trying new things. So we're gonna make the tail portion copper pearl with black flake, okay? But then the body is going to be kind of the inverse of that. It's going to be black pigment, so the body's going to be black, but with copper flake. So basically the inverse of one another. So basically a black tube with an orange copper tail. I think that'll look kind of neat, and then you can see my ghetto rigged tube rods here. There's not much you can say about that other than, wow, Jones, you really went all out. But basically, you take that and you dip them in. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our plastic cooked up here, and we're going to go ahead and mount the camera on the tripod, and then we'll build our colors and see if we can pour some or dip some tubes that don't look completely awful. I'll show you the tubes that I've dipped so far. I'll show you one of them. That's all I've done so far. It's just a little single color tube. So we're gonna try something a little fancier than that. Hopefully it'll look good. So I'm gonna quit rambling and we're gonna get started. And just a real quick close-up of the rods. You can see they just kind of have a beveled off tip there, and I have expertly mounted them to the clay. Normally what you would do is mount these maybe to a block of wood, drill a hole in the wood, and mount them the right way permanently. Since I haven't really started doing this yet, I haven't gone to that trouble. So that is our rig for today. Okay, so let's build some color. So we're gonna do the copper side first. There's our copper powder. And again, we're not gonna do too much. Just enough to get it looking neat. Okay, so some of that. All right, let's see how that looks there. It's definitely very orange. Getting a little bubbly. Come on now, we don't want champagne. We don't want any bubbly. All right. So that's what we're dealing with. I want more of the powder. That's not thick enough. All right, so we're gonna double that essentially. Okey-doke. So here we go. Get the rest of that stirred in there. The kicker is like getting it off the knife. They make actual stirring rods, which are probably better than Walmart butter knives. Perfect. All right, now we're gonna add some 0.035 black flake. About a quarter teaspoon there. I'm like getting it in that other cup. That's a foul. I've got the fan turned up pretty high, blowing the fumes. All right. Beautiful. That's what we want right there. It's just kind of like a peppered copper. Actually, I want a little more pepper on it. So without trying to get it on that other side, I'm gonna add some flake. All right. So we're just gonna kind of let that side sit there and let some of those bubbles work out. But the color's looking lovely. So now let's do this, the black side, which is gonna be the body. Okay. So just add a little black to it. Beautiful. All right. Stir that in, see what we have. Ooh, see that? It's clumping. I gotta heat that one up some more. That definitely needs a little bit longer in the microwave. But the color looks nice. And then, like I said, these are like the inverse of each other. Now we're gonna add some copper glitter to that. Again, this is the medium size, 0.035. Okay. And we're really gonna flake it up because anytime you're adding flake to black color, the black overpowers it, so you have to add a little extra flake to really get it to show up well. Now, a bright flake like that might show up a little better than, say, like a moss green or a blue or something a little darker. But as you can see, that's showing up really well. It almost looks gold in a way, but it's looking pretty good to me. All right. So anyway, now we're going to heat these back up in the microwave, and we will meet you back out here and take a closer look at them and then try to dip some tubes. Okay, everybody, so I took some worm oil. You can see the worm oil over there, and I just kind of put it on these rods here just so that they would have a little bit of lubricant on them. So now what we're going to do is the color that we want the tails to be, we need to dip those first so that the whole tail portion becomes that color, okay? All right, so we're going to dip a few layers of that just to kind of thicken them up a bit. And again, don't really know what I'm doing, so we're just going to kind of learn this together. All right. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off those tabs best I can, just with some scissors. They're not even fully set up yet. Okay. And now I want to go ahead and just get the body part into black plastic. Okay. But I don't want to go all the way down, because again, we want this to be 2-color. So I'm basically just going to dip it enough times until that body is dark enough that I'm getting the contrast that I want. And I may have needed to make this a little bit thicker there again, first time. So we're just going to keep dipping it until we think that it's going to darken it up. And if it doesn't darken it up, then I'll have to go ahead and set these particular tubes aside and then thicken up the black pigment there. But anyway, that's the technique. Just seeing that I don't really know what I'm doing. Looks like I'm gonna need a lot thicker black there. Okay, round 2, here we go. So we're going to dip the tails. Okay. Get a couple layers of that, thicken it up. Maybe one more. Okie doke. Alright, we're just going to kind of let those settle there. Alright, now for the black. Yeah, that's looking a little better there. Again, you know, these are just like little 3-inch tubes. Basically, if you want longer tubes, you dip in cups with more plastic. Pretty much how that goes there. So yeah, you can see definitely some better contrast happening. Still not quite what I wanted, but we're getting there. Problem is, these rods get real hot and they're going to melt my clay and then fall out of my super duper clay rod holder. So I have to be mindful of that. So try to get another layer. So anyway, that's kind of what we have there. They're still not quite what I want, so I'll definitely try it a few more times, but that's definitely closer. Okay, here we go, guys. Attempt number 3. So let's hope that it goes well. All right. I actually thickened up both sides, so added a little bit more copper over here on the left and a lot more black over there on the right. Okay, another, and I actually put more plastisol in there too, just to top it back off. That way the tubes are a little longer. Okay. Let's go over here to the black. Yeah, that's looking a little better. Stir in that flake a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Boy, you really, it still might not even be enough. Come on. Come on. It's definitely getting there. I mean, I feel like at this point it's just more pigment than plastic in that black. Yeah, that's starting to do it. Yeah. Yeah, that's about it. Okay. We'll try those. We're just going to kind of let them drip. I don't know really the correct way. I guess you would then just hang this up for like an hour or so. I really don't know. But actually we're going to do a smidge more, because the thicker that plastic is, the thicker your layer will be. So if you dip it when the plastic is starting to cool, you'll get a thicker layer, I think. So anyway, we're going to go with those and let those dry, and then we're going to do the same two colors, but a little bit different technique, if you can even call it that, to where we're basically just going to do the whole thing as a laminate. So we're going to dip the copper, and then we're going to dip the whole thing in black, and that will give the tail a two-color effect once you cut it. So anyway, there's what we're dealing with right there. Okay, so there's that last round of tubes, and we're just going to slide them off there, which I've worm oiled these, so it should be, there it goes. Nope, the whole thing came out. Thought I had it right. Come on. All the other failures slid right off. All right, well, we're just gonna have to do it that way. So there is essentially our tube, and let's look in a little close there. So that's where we're at now. So anyway, definitely still a lot of learning to do, but this is my second time ever playing around with dipping tubes, and hopefully we'll get something decent by the end of the video. Okay, now we're going to try to do, I guess, what you would call straight laminates. We're going to do the whole bait in each color. So we're going to start with our copper base. Okay, do a couple layers there. Alright. Then we're going to take it over to the black and do the same thing. Do the whole bait. And so what happens is whenever you cut the tail, it will expose that copper underbelly. And so you'll kind of get a two-color tail with a solid body. Instead of the body being black and the tail being copper, now they're kind of both colors in the tail, so to speak. Looks like I need to adjust that one there. So anyway, that's at least my thought process behind this. Now I haven't tested this. I have no idea if it's going to work, but we will find out. So anyway, just gonna leave that in there for a little bit and really let that layer set in, and hopefully we will have something good. So something I just discovered, I just dipped these two individually separate from the other ones, just kind of holding them. And what I found was that obviously I could do it cleaner one at a time, but the plastic had cooled down significantly. And the colder the plastic was, I just think it dipped a little better. It didn't run down as much, and I think that kind of limited the amount of times that I had to dip it. The black side was done after 2 dips. I didn't have to keep dipping, which makes it a little uneven. So, for example, if you look at these, you'll see just some unevenness. Those are a lot cleaner right there. And I think that is due in part to the fact that I didn't have to dip it as many times because the plastic was set up or not as hot. So when it's real hot and runny, I definitely think that was hurting me. So I'm going to dip a few more and just kind of see which ones do better. But for right now, those are a ton cleaner than the ones that I did earlier. Okay, one final try here. We have oiled up our rods again with lots of worm oil, and we've let these 2 cups of plastic cool down considerably. That seemed to do better earlier, okay? So, just going to do a couple dips in that color, maybe one more, and this stuff is about like 315 degrees. For plastisol, it's very cold. I'm going to take it over here, okay? All right. And you can see that just kind of looks nice and even. We're going to dip it a couple more times. Really try to get the black layer on thick. That way we have that laminate effect. I don't really want to see the copper until the tails are cut. That's the goal. So I definitely think that we're getting there. And I tell you, so far, just given my limited experience, you know, this is largely all about timing. That's what I can tell. So you got to time it right when the plastic is the right temperature to get what you want. And even then, my black still isn't quite as thick as it probably needs to be. So anyway, we're going to stop there. And let's see if I can focus on it. Yeah, we're going to stop there and see how those do. Okay, so now we're actually going to cut some tails, and that is what the tail cutter looks like. It's this giant mallet, so to speak, with razor blades on the end. So you want to use a piece of wood or a flat piece of rubber or something. That way you don't just completely destroy the blades. But basically, you take it, and so here's the tube. Let's say I want to go that far up or that far up, however you want to cut the tail. You do it about, you know, you just eyeball it, or, you know, you can draw out measurements on your cutting board or just whatever you want to do. And you basically stomp it. So anyway, just for today's purposes, we're going to lay this tube out. And these are some of the first ones that we did today. The ones that I didn't think look all that good. Okay, so we're going to do it about that far up. And I'm just going to hit it with my hand. Okay? And there you go. So now you peel that off. And then you basically have a cut tube, you know, and then you can, you know, fray this out however you want, pull it apart, etc., etc. So it's, yeah, you can see I didn't quite get it all there. So it's just like the rest of this. You know, it'll take me some practice to get it right. But anyway, that's essentially how you do it. So there again, that one had almost no color contrast. The ones that I did just a little bit ago actually do have some color contrast. So I'm kind of anxious to see how those turn out. I'm going to go ahead and cut the rest of these tails that you see here, and then we'll cut some of the ones that I think are going to look a little better, and hopefully we'll have something decent and worth your time. Okay, now we're going to cut some of these right here that I think actually look good. So what I found was that if I just kind of roll them in a little bit of worm oil right there, the tails cut a little better, and it's easier to peel them off from the blades. So again, this one is fully laminated. So we're just going to go about halfway up. Okay? And we're going to really stomp on this here. Okay? Hopefully get a decent cut. I did not get a decent cut. So we're going to stomp on it some more. Yeah. It's a little bit better. Okay. So, whoops. The whole idea, as you can see now, is that when the tail is cut, boom, you get that lovely copper effect. So it's like a two-tone tail effect, even though it's a single color body on the outside. You can kind of see that other color peeking out from the inside. So that was kind of my reasoning there. That's how you get that two-color tail effect. So anyway, that's one down. Let's try the next one here. Okay. Nothing nothing very glamorous about that. And I'm sure I'm probably supposed to be hitting this with a hammer or something, but I don't have a hammer. So yeah, again, that actually cut really well. So you can see that underside. So anyway, we're going to cut those final two and then show you everything that we made today. Okay, so there are pretty much the first ones that we did that didn't have the color contrast up enough, particularly on the black side. As you can see, those still fully functional tubes, and they don't look bad. They just don't look like they were made by somebody that has any idea what they're doing. That would be me. Then here's the next go around. Those did a little bit better. You know, I upped the color contrast. And then these are definitely my favorite right there, kind of the two-tone in the tail. So, and those of course were the final ones that we did, where we dipped both colors all the way up, so that when you cut the tail, obviously it exposes that underside. So those right there, actually to me, look pretty good. You know, those are, you know, actual tubes that I would actually have a little bit of confidence throwing. So anyway, that's what we did today. I told you guys I didn't have much experience doing this, and you can see that, you know, that was a challenge. That was a pain in the butt just to get this. So, you know, a lot of my videos that I've shown you guys, I've kind of already gotten good at it, whether it's, you know, laminate swirls, things like that. You know, when I started hand pouring, you know, my first couple hand pour videos were, you know, not so good on the technical side of things, but it was a learning curve, a learning process, and I took you guys along because that's kind of the point of this channel. You know, I don't have experience with all bait making techniques, and this weekend I'm really trying some new stuff, which has nothing to do with plastics, but hand dipping tubes has always been something that I've kind of thought would be really cool, because it's kind of like the hand pour version of tubes. I feel like you can just almost have unlimited options with it. You know, you are literally controlling every step of the process on that rod. So anyway, that's kind of what we were able to do today. So, you know, if you've thought about doing it, you know, there's kind of a very, very rough introduction. Well, okay, guys, hopefully that wasn't too painful to watch. You know, like I said, not much experience, but I'm not scared to show some real struggles on camera, because that's part of bait making. You know, y'all should have seen me back in the day before this channel, back in 2012, whenever I started pouring baits. Oh, God. Simple Jack still has some of my original reject baits, and there are just no words to describe how bad they are. Kind of like my tubes. So anyway, that's kind of basically the first time I've ever dedicated more than about 5 minutes to dipping tubes. I did three, you know, like I said, those 3 tubes that I did before, I was pouring swim baits that night. I already had the rods, so I literally just dipped 3 of them in just to see what it looked like. So, you know, what I was able to learn today, though, because it's always important to learn, is definitely I think they come out better if you dip them a little cooler. Wait till the plastic gets a little colder. I think you'll dip not only a thicker layer, but you'll get that contrast that you want. And then definitely don't use modeling clay to build a little rod holder. That goes without saying. That's just what I did today. Just for you know, I just needed some way to dip more than 1 rod at a time on camera. So, you know, there's definitely a couple takeaways from it. If you are an experienced tube dipper, please shoot me some tips and comments down below. I haven't had any direction with this, or really sought any tips and techniques on it. That was, I mean, you guys literally just saw it. That's all I know about it. So definitely something that we're gonna get better at, so expect some better videos on tube dipping. But that was just like a little rough introduction. You know, when I decided to film today, I said I'm gonna play with that tube dipping, and it's gonna be really bad, but since I don't have any experience, it'll make a good video, just to show that you're always gonna start at the bottom when you start something new. So bottom of the barrel right there. Hopefully we can get better as time goes on. And anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Shoot me a comment down below, and we'll catch you next time.